Connie, how long have you been in the business?
9 years?
9
10
years. And what I know about
10
you
years next year.
is that you are if you're not always in the building, but you are kicking it in business, and agents love how you give back to them.
Oh,
I
thank
hear
you.
that a lot.
Did you really?
I do. I hear how you've helped someone, they've called you, they've reached out to you, and you've helped them by either sharing, what you do and how you do it, or sometimes even with saying, hey, come along beside.
Yeah, come with me.
That's cool, and we're really thankful that you're doing
you.
this, because I know for me, Georgia, I did more Tennessee, and then I always felt like I could get a cheat sheet out if I did something in Georgia. Anybody else feel that way sometimes? Yeah, okay, so what you're doing is really important. All
Okay.
right, take over, and I'm just
Okay.
going to make sure Colt turn this on.
So I haven't ran the statistics, but I do about 90% in Georgia. Give me a Tennessee contract and I'm looking at it going, oh my gosh, where's everything at? To me, Georgia is so much simpler. Everything's on the front page. So we're covering due diligence. First thing is, Georgia, unlike those of you that do Tennessee, this is directly from the Georgia website. Due diligence period starts the day after your binding agreement. The day after is day 1. So, and there is no weekend off. It runs strictly straight through. So if you got a 10-day due diligence, it's 10 days. Now, Tennessee has the weekend, it moves to Monday. Georgia does not. Straight 10 days. And that's what this from the state of Georgia website, counting the days. So a lot of us, like on our on time frames, I'll put 11:59 p.m. on the day of, because Georgia is the days. Okay? Any questions on that? So the due diligence period pretty much is straightforward. It's your inspection period. It covers any of your inspections that you want done during that time frame. You need to get them done. There is an amendment to extend the due diligence period in Georgia. So you can extend it if you need to, if you got to do I just went through all these, a well inspection, a septic inspection, a roof inspection from the findings of your home inspection. So when we get all those done during that time frame, don't think there's a whole lot more to cover on due diligence. Y'all have any questions? I mean, it's pretty.
Holidays, so let's just say Monday is something later.
Doesn't matter.
So when Monday comes, if that's the deadline, it's Monday.
It's Monday.
So when you write the contract, you better look at the calendar.
That's right. Look at the calendar when you write the contract, because Georgia is day for day. Wait a minute, no. Hold on, there is. May not be the due diligence. No, it's not the due diligence. Due diligence does include the holidays. Closing date, if you put a closing date by accident on Saturday, it goes to Monday. That one is the only one in Georgia that does roll over if you make that mistake. So look at your calendar. You know, it's right there on your computer screen when you're doing it. And it's right there in, I don't use DocuSign. Does DocuSign have it where you click on it and when you go to put a date in, it gives you a calendar? I use the other system, so, and it does give you that. We're not covering that, so we're not going to cover that. That's closing. I'm only doing the due diligence and the kickout clause, so Yep.
A lot to that.
So also, and y'all love this, Choice Title in Ringgold is being bought by John Smith.
I did. Don't tell anybody yet.
That was just the address I used because I didn't want to use mine and didn't want to use the office. So I used Choice Title. Huh? John Smith? Ah, that's right. I could have put Johnny Smith on there, couldn't I? So turn to the last page of not the last page, next to the last page of the purchase and sale agreement. On this part of the purchase and sale agreement, in Georgia, when you have a buyer that has a house to sell, you're going to include as an exhibit the sale or lease of buyer's property. F601. That becomes your contingency. Then when we get to the contingency form, this is where it gets a little confusing. Most of us are going to always put no kickout clause, which is your last option on here. I have it highlighted. Give me 1 second. Yeah, you can sit right there. I'll give you these documents. These are the Georgia counting days in Georgia. So most of us are going to put the no kickout clause because we don't want the property to be continued to be marketed during the time, especially if we have the buyer's house under contract. If not, and the agent comes back to you, there's all these other contingencies on here. And it's important that you know, if you check this box, this agreement is subject to a kickout clause. So you have to put the number of hours. Most of you use 48 hours? That's what I do. 48 hours. You can do 24, you can do 72. There is no specific as to the number of hours for your kickout clause for them to give you notice. And then you come back at them whether or not your buyer, is going to move forward or terminate. There's 3 options. You can move forward without selling the buyer's house if they can do that. Most of them cannot. Or you terminate. Or if you can talk them into letting you stay in contract because you may have offers coming in that you've been made aware of on the buyer's house. But if you take that leap and you remove the kickout clause and agree to move forward and the buyer's house falls through, then they can lose their earnest money. So you want to be careful with that. Usually most buyers will terminate if their house is not already scheduled to close. You're already through the inspection period and everything on it. So you want to be careful because you want to protect your buyer's earnest money. So if the agent comes back, which they're probably going to counter back when you put no kickout clause, so they're going to counter back, but you only want the sale or lease of buyer's property contingency. You don't want to, if it's 2 days into the contract, you don't want to have the box checked on here for the due diligence and it will end also. So you don't want to lose that due diligence period. Yeah, this is, just so y'all know, this is my first class to teach. It's been a long time. I used to do this all the time back in my previous life. So if you have questions, please speak up, because this is outside my comfort zone. So anyway, so if we get to your contingent on a kick-out clause. So you want to make sure when they counter back, if they just counter back with you with no kick-out clause on the counter, you want to make sure you clarify what your kick-out clause is. Because there's so many, because they can also, you want to keep it you don't want to check the box for all contingencies, because then you're going to lose everything. Your appraisal contingency, your financing contingency, you're going to lose your due diligence period, you'll lose everything, and your buyer's no longer protected. You know this, right? You want to make sure your buyer's protected, because you've got their earnest money. You don't want them to lose that. Yes.
It's probably a good idea to find out what contingencies are in the new offer that's come in. Taking you out, unless if it's all cash.
You may as well terminate. Yeah. Yeah, you can ask. Some agents will tell you, some agents won't. I would ask. When they sent me a notification that they had received another acceptable offer, I would ask what the terms are. Is it a cash offer? Is it conventional and you're sitting with a FHA or a VA? Because I can see why. I mean, so you want to ask those questions of the other agent and see what before you advise your client on their best next step. Because advising your client, because they don't know, that most buyers, what's the kick-out clause? They don't have a clue. So they're going to ask you those questions. So it's your job to guide them through the process so they know, and explain to them what all of these contingencies mean. And I'm skipping here. You weren't here during due diligence, which is really an easy one in Georgia. You know, it covers all your inspections, so you understand it, so you're good. Okay. Yeah. I do 90% of my business in Georgia. So, any questions on the kick-out clause?
So sorry, I had to find one that I got that was so confusing, because again, I do like I do the option.
Right.
Georgia, a little bit, Tennessee, fly. I got an offer, which we didn't go with, but I got an offer with the cost. And they checked the box C, which says all unexpired contingencies shall remain as part of this agreement. Okay? Now that confuses me, because on the purchase and sales agreement, it says closing to be 30 days after contingency to sell 139 Blue Jay Park Rises, which are moved in conjunction with the closing of it. So I'm confused, because it says closing to be 30 days after the contingency to this, but then over here it says all unexpired shall be made part of the contract. So does that mean they get to sell the house? I mean, does that lock us into that? I got just confused on C. I don't understand C.
Sell or lease a buyer's property contingency will no longer be part of the agreement.
Well, see, on the cookout clause number 7, they checked the option 1, and they went down and put C of the option 1. All unexpired contingencies shall remain as part of this agreement. And then over here it says closing be 30 days after contingency to sell. So I'm confused.
Where are you what form are you on?
I'm in Georgia.
What's the date on that form?
This one is that's this year.
Coming from Georgia.
So they've,
That's 601 new. Look at the second page, look at the C, all contingencies, all unexpired contingencies shall remain as part of this agreement.
so the form was updated in June. That is no longer the appropriate form.
Oh, so there's not, okay. Oh, let's see. Wait,
is that recent?
This was this year, but it was,
Okay.
it was in May.
Yeah, so the form was updated and they've changed the wording of that. I'm looking at it going, what's he talking about?
So this is very, but see, in this case, this is why I said number one, number two here. But anyway, when I got an offer, and it says on there, all unexpired contingencies, then I go to the purchase and sales agreement, it says 30 days from now, or 30 days from the close date, it's a contingency. So how, is that expired? Is it expired? Is it, I mean, like, do we have to wait 30 days for that to happen? Well, it doesn't matter now, but I'm just saying.
So,
I'll show you later. I don't want to mess the process up.
so it says all contingencies that are not expired. So if you were 4 days into the contract, your due diligence period would not be expired, most likely, so it would still be standing, okay? Your financial contingency for 30 days would still be standing. Any of your contingencies like that would still be standing. They wouldn't be removed because it's only removing all expired contingencies.
Well, it says closing will be 30 days after contingencies to sell. So that's what I got confused on, 30 days after.
So they put that in the special stipulations. See, that's where they were being creative.
It was like 30 days after, but then it says all unexpired. So if it's unexpired, it's 30 days, 30 days haven't happened.
Right, so it was
To this, like, I don't want this contract.
right, so if it was not expired, it was still standing.
It's like 30 days after the contingency to sell, this is what it is, the closing is up. So I was just like that, but now I like your name of that.
I didn't update it, Georgia did. Sorry for being confused, but I'm looking at it going, what's he talking about? And I remember it did say all unexpired contingencies. But once they changed the form and I see it updated, I don't even think about the old form. I mean, and that's the thing, when you get something from someone, look at the date on that form and make sure it's not expired. Because I personally just got a property disclosure that was dated 2022 on a house that was just listed, and I sent it back. And I'm like, this is not acceptable. This is a 3-year-old form. And it was just signed. So I'm a stickler for sending them back when stuff is not where it should be. You're in the middle, so I keep looking at you.
This is done, but that, like I said, you just have to read what it's supposed to say and then make sure,
What-
it's all unexpired and 30 days after,
Right, right. So this means if you do this one, that, like, this has got seller, lease, or buyer's property contingency will no longer be part of the agreement. That's if they get another offer. So you have to be careful. And this form is confusing. It's better since they've updated things, but it's like Johnny being confused over all contingencies except expired, which is no longer there. It doesn't say that anymore. Doesn't say that anymore. So, but the one that's highlighted, me, when I send an offer, I'm always going to check that one. I mean, that's the one. I'm the one that doesn't have my phone turned off. Sorry about that. So, correct. Correct. And most sellers agents are going to come back with a kickout clause. But when they do, if they just put it on the counter form and they don't use the wording on here, I counter back and use the appropriate wording of which contingencies I want. So best,
There's a lot of options if we use option one, and this is where I get confused on. If there's option one and it represents a buyer, you wanna craft it to their benefit.
correct.
So when we all just, you just take the chance, but then I guess you could count them if you didn't like the way they did it.
That's
I
fine.
just think there's just so many, yeah.
So you don't want to, I personally, especially if the seller's house, hold on, the buyer's house is listed, it's under contract, you don't want a kick-out clause. If it's not listed, because I have done this where take the people out, we find them a house, we're going to list their house within 24 hours or 48 hours of an accepted offer, but I've already got photos, we're ready to go. So, but in the market we're in now, not like it was a couple of years ago, we're run. We're back to 60 days on the market is normal, which is hard to accept when used to be 2 hours on the market was normal, 4 hours. So sellers are having a hard time with that. And buyers too that have a house to sell because they think their house is going to sell immediately. It's not. We have to educate them. The market we're in now with the interest rates, we just had an interest rate drop, 0.25%. So we're supposed to have 2 more. We'll see. But, their house isn't going to sell unless it is a fluke. I mean, it's not going to sell immediately. So you got to educate people on that because we've changed. The market's different. So that's when you can, when it comes to this. I have done this, call the listing agent, explain the situation to them, communicate with people. I communicate. I call the agents and I talk to them. And then talk it over with your client after you talk to the listing agent. How long has the house been on the market? That makes a difference. If you're making an offer on a house that's been on the market for 90 days or 104 months, which in this market, we see them. If it's been on the market for 4 months, not having a kick-out clause may not be that big of a challenge. But use these. Like I said before, I would never give up my due diligence in the beginning, the inspection period, because you're risking your client's earnest money. So if you went under contract for a house, your buyer has a house to sell, 4 days later, your inspector's going on the 5th day, you've got a 10-day due diligence, they get another acceptable offer, you don't want to eliminate those contingencies. You don't want to eliminate your financial contingency. So you don't want to remove the due diligence, the financing contingency. You want to keep those. Things happen. What if somebody loses their job 5 days before closing? They're going to lose their earnest money too if you remove those contingencies. So I try to protect my buyer and not let them lose their earnest money.
So if a home is under a contract, so that the seller has the kick-out clause, right? And then there's a 10-day due diligence period, and they receive a cash offer within that 10-day due diligence period. Is the kick-out clause still in effect?
If you did a kick-out clause, yes, they're going to give you a notification based on the number of hours you have up here. You have that long to respond. So if you've got 48 hours, you're going to be talking to your client. Their house is listed. You don't have any offers on it. House they want to buy has a cash offer. At that point, it's a conversation with your client. I'm sorry. If we remove this contingency and move forward, you're going to have to buy the house and you may still have your house. So you're gonna have 2 house payments.
Yeah, so there's a risk of already paying for the inspection and the appraisal.
Right. Yeah. When I write an offer with a house to sell, I put in the special steps that buyer's due diligence period to start when their house goes under contract. So you're covered. So you're not doing your home inspection up front. That is true. It, you can. You gotta know you gotta look at the house. You gotta look at the house to make that decision. If it's a new construction house or it's a house that's a couple of years old, then so you gotta use your own judgment, like you're saying, because if it's a 1950s house and you walk in and you're going, look at this house, I would probably suggest going ahead and getting the home inspection. If it's not, if you look at the house, you go, this house is great. But it's a conversation with your buyer, because it's their decision. Right. It's a No. No, it's a great point, and you don't want to. It's a conversation, and it's a knowing, looking at the house. I mean, once you've been doing this, I mean, Johnny, Alice, you've been doing it a while too. Doug's a home inspector, so I mean, come on. Hey, so and you've been doing it a while, so you can, you know, if you walk in if the house has got floors like this, and you know you see cracks all over the place, or you see water damage on the ceiling, I'd go ahead and do the home inspection.
Well, and I think too, it's known for buyers.
Right.
You have some buyers that are a little bit more,
And can they afford it?
and do they have the cash to
Right.
do those repairs if the seller, but I'm not really,
Right.
I don't know, but
Yeah, it's a conversation. It's
definitely a conversation
right.
about that. I see definitely, I see both sides.
It's both sides, and it's really looking at the house and knowing what you're looking at, because it can go both ways. But so, okay, come on, speak up, Johnny.
No, I think it was great. It was very, I'm glad that they changed the language on it. It was really confusing because I probably, in this where I was, working at it for all, and this and that. But I have had together in my office, and we were looking at the form like twice, have we done this? The same form twice? Not even on this one, but a different too. So this is what it's gonna be. I think our market right now is gonna be that, you know, people wanna look at what's out there, and their house on the market, so more and more are gonna be with contingency. Potentially.
Yeah.
So,
So,
no kickout clause, which now I understand better, would be the way to go. And then if that kickout is counterly, we can then what your buyer needs, right? What are the needs for the house and all things like that. And then.
and selling listing agents, when you do the no kickout clause, if they're been around for a while, they're going to educate their client on what this means. And this means that if your house is coming off of the market, if their house doesn't sell in 30 days, something I do, when I get an offer on one of my listings and they have a house to sell, I'm looking that other person's house up. I want to know what it looks like. I want to know where it's at. I want to know the location. And, you know, approximately what the sales price is gonna be, because I gotta talk to my seller and educate them on that. You know, this is what I found on that house.
And if you have the buyers moving from out of state, which I have, and that's another situation, you gotta call that listing, what's the market like, what's the thing, you do research there.
Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you, but I've had clients come into town and they're moving here from somewhere else, and they're like, oh, my house is in the perfect area, it's gonna sell. It'll be under contract in 2 or 3 days. Well, who's your agent? Well, I've got several I've talked to. Well, I need an agent to talk to because I'm representing your best interest here, and I don't know that market. I don't have a clue. I don't know what the Florida market or the Chicago market or any of those markets are like. So you got to call and communicate with those other agents in regards to that. So a lot of this stems from communication before you write an offer and finding out and talking to your client, because it's becoming, well, I think it's maybe a little less common now, but I've written several offers, like I said, with that house to be listed within 48 hours. I just did one a couple of weeks ago. Great house. I thought it'd already be under contract. It's still sitting. It's priced right. We've actually done a price reduction. Still not sold. And we were fortunate. We don't have a kickout clause. So, you know, we never know. Yes, sir?
So, you have a contract with, how many days did you write that?
60.
60 days. So, as you're approaching the 60-day mark, at that point, it's not required that you investigate, you have to wait for the next step, and then,
I do.
yeah, because the contract will expire, so then when you go out, you just amend the contract for 30 days, or whatever the number is. And then maybe add a few things that might, that point, there could be that clause.
Yeah. At that point, they can come back and put a kickout clause in. Right. Yep. So you can do that. I usually start looking at mine 30 days before the 60 days, because if someone comes along to buy theirs, they're going to finance, most likely. So if they're going to be financing, you're looking at a 30-day closing. So if you did an original for your buyer that has no kickout clause for 60 days, their house is listed, you're not getting a lot of showings. You're not getting people coming to open houses. Then, you know, at that 30-day mark, I would be calling the other agent and giving them an update and telling them what's going on with the house, and looks like we're going to have to extend. And work through it with them. You know, when you know the agents and you get to know them, you can talk it through. And everybody wants to do what's best for their client. The one I have, I'll throw this little, my buyer, his son lives next door to the seller. So they're good friends. So I may get this one extended, but there's times you don't have those advantages, and communication with the other agent is key. You're going to do a counter. You're going to do amendment to the agreement, and you're going to address myself when I do an amendment to the agreement. And this is just me. I use the verbiage. I open this on one screen, sit here and type it into the counter offer.
Amend the agreement, but then you would do, on that amendment, you would amend the sale or lease of the buyer.
I will put Exhibit D to be amended and put the name of it amended as follows. Yeah.
That's where and that's what you usually as well.
I'm sorry. So you use that form as the, an exhibit?
This form is an exhibit to the purchase and sale agreement. When you submit an offer, if you look at the next to the last page on the purchase and sale, sale or lease of buyer's property contingency exhibit.
But you would, like, if there wasn't a kickout clause at that point, if you're the listing agent, you'd say, we're now gonna introduce this exhibit to that point.
No, even if there's not a kickout clause, you still have this form. You can add the form, but as a buyer's agent, when you're submitting the offer, you should be including this form. You, as,
Yeah, I guess it would happen there without a kickout clause and then you amend.
yeah, you, always,
You've got the wording in the amendment.
right.
So if, and then, of course, and I'm talking from council.
Oh, you're fine.
But if, so let's say your buyer's house is under contract. And so you, like in Tennessee, we would just say contingent upon the successful closing. Or just, yeah, closing because it's under contract to be closed, whatever, that you have to put in that, you put in that.
This is your buyer's protection. Your seller buyer's protection, right. This form in Georgia is your protection. In that case, you would do a kickout clause.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if they wouldn't agree to it, then it'd be like, you should not buy it. I mean,
Right. If they won't agree to the kickout clause, your house is under contract. So you really need to think about this because you're scheduled to close at this time on your house.
right.
And it's a conversation with the listing agent. I mean, if it's a solid offer, if it's a conventional loan or a cash offer, and I mean myself, when I get those offers that have a contingency to sell, I'm looking up the house in our MLS. Where's it located? Is it on Signal Mountain that sells like this, even today, still selling fast? You know, or is it down in no man's land where it's going to sit on the market for a while, you know? So have those conversations. I'm a big conversation with them. Yeah, it can vary from. Nothing is black and white. I mean, yes, it is black and white. It's black and white right here, but you got to know which black and white option to check. So,
So when you're looking at all those things like that, 'cause I think I learned the fastest when I made a mistake or whatever, I see one of my clients lose out, that would be a fail forward. But I've had to use the earnest money because of the finances situation, it wasn't intentional enough, you know? And so, to me, because I have done so many Tennessee trips, I know there are, travels and all these things, but when I got to Georgia, they wouldn't, in the case of this expired, and 5 years later, he qualifies, and they want to send us this money. And I don't know why, I don't think it's the lenders, but lenders have their own issues, you can't always depend on them.
in Georgia,
Coming from Georgia, we've always been willing to extend the finance. It's not that.
So if you have buyers and you don't do a lot of work, we'll make sure that that's on there.
You have to fill out the appropriate financial contingency in Georgia. There's a no financing contingency, which is what it's called now, which is the cash one. You got a FHA, a VA, a conventional. When I fill those out, I run them to the closing date. On that. Well, the seller doesn't unilaterally extend. The buyer can unilaterally extend for 8 days only with title company or a lender. And it can't be because the lender didn't get everything from the buyer. That's not a lender reason. It has to be the lender's underwriting came back and asked for something, or the title company doesn't have the title search back yet. It's got to be a specific to throw that 8-day unilateral.
I have a question. So you have a kickout clause in place. My thinking as I'm representing the buyer, to let that roll as long as I can, and not, even if I get everything done, I'm gonna let it roll till I have to. Because I see so many of the agents wanting, once they get it, tie it up immediately. I'm like, are you asking, is the seller asking? Don't do it. 'Cause I had to stop, talking to people, like, don't do it till they pay you. Till they say, hey, you have to. Let it roll till closing if you need to. Yeah, let it roll. Because, anything can happen. As soon as you remove it, something can happen. And if you remove it, I'm a liar.
I never remove that. If there's a no kickout clause, it ain't gonna be removed. It's gonna go right till closing. Yeah, unless the seller comes back at you. But even then, if the seller's agent comes back and says, we want to remove the no kickout clause, you want to maintain your due diligence period if it's not up, and you want to maintain your financial contingency.
Is there another one where you can close?
There's appraisal, financial. I always put that in the special steps anyway, even with this form. I always put the successful closing. Even in the special steps in Georgia, I always put offer is contingent on the successful closing of buyer's home located at blah, 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 listed with. I think I have it in here. Yeah.
So go back to the, contingency to get that clause, so please. So 3, this agreement,
3.
what's that or?
Where's 3?
This agreement is contingent on the currency of filing on or before either select one below. The section not selected will not be part of this agreement. If neither is selected, the closing date of this agreement is being selected. So closing date, and then or, and then there's a blank, contingency period.
That we've used if somebody's relative needs to go and look at it. That's why it was left blank like that, so you can put anything in.
Anything that you haven't, okay, thank you.
Yep, anything, right. And then you're going to check the first one.
Right.
Yeah.
We're just check the first one.
Yep.
But the closing date of the agreement of the person and seller.
Closing date of the other property.
So how far out did you put that?
I usually do 60 days. The market we're in now, I may start doing 90 days.
Yeah, 'cause you gotta kind of have to guess when the house is, their house is gonna.
Yeah, you got to guess when their house is going to close. And it's because as you all know, we're in a transitional, year and a half, 2 years ago, houses were flying off the market. Like I said earlier, now average time's 60 days? Johnny may do that. He runs statistics. What's the average time on market now? Yeah.
Okay, I can tell you a sample here I was showing a house in here, listed house in Harrison, and at the price point that I listed, you know what the days on the market was?
What?
10 months.
Yeah.
10 months. 580.
Yeah. I
That's the pennies on the dollar. And then Chart Masters,
I do. And I have ran statistics on what I've seen. If it's 350 or below, it's selling. If it's 350 to 550, it's sitting. The higher end stuff is still selling. But this little pocket in the middle is kind of sitting here right now. And it's colored. You know what that just cost you?
18, 36, and almost 19 cents gets us right after that. But anyway, long story short, use those Chart Masters because it really helps your planners. And when they don't understand it, it's and you run that email on because this is really hard, this is not.
I pull out the area, like where my listings are, I pull that area out of it and print it and I email it to them. Is that Apison? What's Prairie Pass days on the market? I've got a beautiful listing in Prairie Pass. Had over $50,000 in upgrades when they bought it, and it's sitting. 709. That's fine. Ask. I talked to him. I call. I mean, I know she's probably also, Johnny, I'm not sure. I see him in the office all the time. I'm in my car all the time. And I have all these people on my phone, and I just tell my phone to call them. And I'm calling them like, hey, I need an update on this. Can you give me a call back? And I tell them also when I send the contract, I'm the buyer's agent. You know, please keep me updated on where we are in the process, because there is nothing worse than, yeah, the buyer, yeah. To that, I have had a lender tell me, I can't provide you with that. I'm like, I'm not asking for anything confidential. Has the appraisal been ordered? You know, are we on track to close? Do we have a clear to close? I mean, those are things we have to know. I don't. Yeah. And don't be afraid, like she said, don't be afraid to talk to your buyer and go, hey, I'm not getting a response.
I'm gonna say something kind of confidential, just really like with it, we're not allowed to say it.
Hold on,
But Mary,
hold on.
and I'm not trying to throw this guy.
Okay, so, in Georgia, let's say that you are showing a house and it has a kickout clause on it, and your buyer wants to make an offer.
Hmm.
So do we use, how do we, submit an offer? Do we use the backup form? No.
You just submit an offer.
Supposed to do.
If the house is still actively listed,
To do that, let me just explain that. Because if they accept your backup, because they have to go back to their buyer for how many hours, right?
Correct.
So what if they, so in that period of time, what if they get another offer besides your offer? So if you're the backup, once that one dies, who would go and press?
That's kind of her
Opinion on that? Does that make sense?
Right.
That if you're
Well, you don't
backup,
want the timelines to start for your buyer and you lose 48 hours.
well, or
on it.
someone else comes in and gets another one,
Right.
right?
Multiple
You're
offers.
already, the seller's already accepted, you're the
Right.
backup, and then when that one goes away. So that's what her
But-
thinking was on some, see what I'm saying? What
But
I'm
it's like,
thinking?
No.
it has to be accepted.
Well, it will be
Right.
as a backup,
Right, exactly.
and then when the first one goes away, so you secure it as a backup.
Right.
So no one else can get it.
Yes.
And that's why she wants you to use it as a backup.
Right, or as the listing agent, you notify them, they leave, and then people say, oh, you changed our mind, and then you're left with nothing.
No, well,
If
not
it-
as a
unless
backup.
that's why you have to get
It-
it.
I would also communicate
Right.
with the listing agent. Do you have any more showings? If they don't have any more showings,
So what do we do, what if, like,
so if you're going to a house that's still being marketed,
right,
and your buyer wants to make an offer on it, they do have a 48-hour first right of refusal. It's communication with the listing agent. Like, if you want to do the backup.
That's just why Robert said that,
Yeah.
just to secure it.
so what do we do in Georgia, like, how do you,
I've never done it with a backup offer.
What do you do?
I just submit I call the agent and say, hey, I know you got a kickout clause, but I'm sending you an offer on this property.
So what do you as the listing agent do then? Because you don't want, you can't accept it because then you're under contract with two people.
Correct.
You have to have some kind of wording that lets them know.
They have to send they have to send a notification to the other contract that they're under contract with.
So you don't actually accept, as the listing agent, you don't accept the offer until you counter it though? Like if it, what if it's a pretty good offer, but it's not actually.
Then you're going to your seller and you're saying, hey, we just got this other offer in. We've got this other offer on the table that we're under contract for. In order for you to accept this one, we have to send them notification, and they either have to terminate or move forward.
But
I mean, they either,
what
yeah.
offer you get is pretty good, but it's not an acceptable offer. You have to counter. I mean, like, you're
You can't,
negotiating.
I wouldn't counter it until you gave notification. Because here's the thing, if you counter it and the buyer accepts it, you're under contract with two people.
But you can't issue notification if it's not a truly acceptable offer.
Then, so if
It's just signed, it's not bound until the time.
that's true, you're not going to bind it.
Well, that's what Robin said you attach a backup. You have a backup so that they know they are not in primary position.
But they're not in primary. They're still not in primary until the offer is bound.
Yeah.
But it's bound when the seller accepts it.
No,
In Georgia,
not till you bind it at the bottom.
That's why it automatically moves in first.
So what do we think, what do we, as a group of agents, think is the best practice here?
Well, I think securing your buyer's offer as a backup is a great thing.
Yeah, see, I think,
I've never heard that before, but I like that. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it is a kickout.
the kickout would happen because if you have an exhibit saying it's a backup offer, once if you get an like if you're like, okay,
So it's
all
an
these.
accepted offer, but when it's not really an accepted offer because it's not a primary accepted offer, so when does the kickout actually happen?
so they would still have to give notification.
Yeah, so it's really, it's only a backup offer for whatever, 48 hours.
we have a
Right.
signed backup offer.
Correct.
So then, since we have an acceptable offer from another buyer, that's when the listing agent lets the seller know that they have an acceptable offer. And it's a backup accepted offer, and then the 48 hours, 24 hours, whatever the kickout time period is exercised then.
So you're going like, again, you're only doing it for 48 or whatever that time frame is until you can kick out the first buyer.
If the current contract cannot move forward.
So at that point, after the 40 hours, does the document set?
It's still a backup for however.
So the 48 hours are over, okay? 48 hours, and this is Tuesday, and it ended yesterday, right? So nothing happened, no communication happened, that document cancel the first one?
No,
So you still have to do a termination?
So it has to be bound.
No, I'm talking about the first deal. So deal number one, it's under contract with a 48-hour, kickout.
They- they're in first
So
position.
the document is done.
They're
You don't have
earnest
to-
money
you don't have to do a
shall bar, the
termination
first
in the
person.
document, because that ends that. So then on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, is that when you say, hey, I need to bind it? Is that what you do?
I think you bind it. If
You bind
it's a
it, it's
backup offer, you bind it immediately.
In Georgia, you find
Yeah.
it immediately.
If you got a backup.
Backup offer. If you look
But
at
if
it,
it's a backup offer, it tells more, when you have that form in front of you, you're thinking,
I will have to read it because I think it didn't see you don't sign the binding part of it till we're out.
there's different scenarios on this. I was in a situation, I couldn't get Robin, I talked to Rachel Greer,
What's a backup?
So if the people get an offer and they remove it and you got two binding, then it's still not in their place yet.
Correct.
No,
Because it hasn't, yeah.
you have the backup.
Who's on first? I don't know.
The original offer? The, the original offer's gonna be on first.
And in our hot Atlanta market, we've had people in second position, third position, and fourth position for a given house. So he wants to step aside first?
So I'm the only one who's got.
We had that back in, during COVID.
So Connie, you're saying like you would just like, once you get an offer, you typically just notify the seller, hey, we've got, or the property offer, hey, we've got an offer, even if it's not acceptable.
You still have to notify them, you have that obligation. Even if it's, I mean, you know, it's knowing the market, and if the offer may be a little less, but it's a cash offer or it's a conventional loan, and the current contract is not,
But in that scenario, technically you could lose both.
you
Because
could.
they might say, oh, we can't move forward, and then the people that had an offer may say, oh, change their mind.
And they can, that's Georgia.
So
It-
then
it-
we get away with the due diligence and stuff.
Right. Yeah, that was the other thing. In Georgia, during the due diligence period, day after a buyer goes under contract, they don't even have to do the home inspection. They can walk away. They can say, I don't want this house anymore. They don't have to have a reason. Tennessee, you have to have a reason. But Georgia, that's why listing agents will come back and go, you want a 14-day due diligence? No, we're only gonna do 7 days. Because you're taking that seller's home off of the market for that period of time, you know, and it's not gonna be marketed. So Georgia's, a lot of times you get a lesser of a, unless you got a lot of things to inspect, which sometimes you can. When I say that, I just had one with a well and a septic tank, okay?
Mom always told me that Georgia would be longer so that you have enough time to negotiate repairs too. Like, you know, that was the way to be.
You can always extend it. There's a form to extend the due diligence period.
Because Mom was all, she did.
Georgia, I personally think Georgia, you give me a Tennessee contract and I'm going, oh my gosh, what do I do? Exactly. I mean, I can do it, but when I go to look for something, like how long did I do the due diligence, I'm scrolling up and down through there trying to find it. Or I think it's inspection period in Tennessee and not due diligence, but I can't find stuff on that form. Put it all, yes, put it all on the front page. So do you do Tennessee also? You know what I'm talking about then. Put it all on the front page, it's nice and pretty.
So if you were going to say, going back, kind of switching up our
Okay, you're fine.
right? Okay. Let's say we represent the seller now, and we want to, do our best job for the seller. Like what, we're gonna want a kickout clause,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna want, what other things, we would,
A lesser, inspections right away, a lesser financial contingency.
like as far as on the, seller piece of the buyer property contingency, like,
I mean, they could even counter back, if you put a 60-day closing, they can counter back and say, no, we're only gonna give you 15 days to get it under contract, so we're gonna give you 45 days. Yeah, because most of the time, it's gonna be a 30-day closing from the time it goes under contract. Unless you get lucky and get a cash offer and close in 10 days.
No, that's
That'd be wonderful.
Now, I've also had, I had a listing agent very kindly, like he said we want a kickout clause, but the kickout clause would be removed once our house is under a contract and through the inspection period.
Mhm.
I mean, I thought that was.
That's okay, as long as you still have that as long as you still have the, no, you want that contingency to sell. You, s- you don't want,
I mean, it was very nice, and I thought, well, I need to use that next time I'm representing the buyer better, you know, to then, maybe, I guess, if we were gonna do that representing the buyer, could we put that, like, if they said, no, it is subject to a kickout clause, could we then counter and say, yeah, we'll agree to a kickout clause until our house is under contract and through the diligence period?
you can, yeah.
So that's not a bad, then we would put that on a counter and you would counter, you know, you would say exhibit D, whatever.
To read, and then,
In my experience, a buyer already has a house under contract, and they're writing another one, they're rarely going to do kickout clause at all, because they want to know where they're moving.
Correct.
As if there's already under contract.
yeah. But if, like you said, their house is listed, so you're agreeing to a kickout clause, let's say for 15 days. Their house goes under contract on the 15 days, the kickout clause is removed, so that house now shows as contingent on the MLS and not active. Yeah. You can put in a counter, you can put it in special steps. Because
Or the, like, you do the exhibit and you counter the exhibit on each counter and you refer to the exhibit on the counter.
I think you do. I think you do. Some of the exhibits I have ran into, and I'll give you, and this is off the subject, but a buyer's broker's compensation form. And they wanted a new form, and I'm like, but it's in the counter. And it was all addressed appropriately. So, to me, it's that the exhibits, whatever is in that counter overrides what's in the exhibit. Am I right? Yeah. So, because you don't go back, like if they counter back with, they're only going to agree to a 20-day financial contingency. And in that financial contingency form, you put 30 days. You don't update the form, the exhibit, because it's in the counter. No. Because you put exhibit D or exhibit C, conventional loan contingency. Yeah. Yeah, exhibits are letters. Well, I mean, there's no rule about it. I mean, there's no rule. You can have exhibit 1, 2, 3, 4, but yeah, but standardized. I think pretty much everybody. Do you use A, B, C, and D for exhibits? Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of pretty much the. I don't ask Seth. I don't know if it's written anywhere. I mean, I just think it's kind of the standard we all go with. Yeah, that's the way I do it.
Well, once you purchase the sale agreement, at the back it says exhibits attached A, B, C, D, and then double C, because you have so many.
I actually had one that I just did a new construction one. We went all the way to exhibit O. And it's all on, it's not a builder's form, it's on this. But down there in the little lines under the exhibits, the listing agent filled out the majority of the purchase and sale agreement for me. And he had all of that on there. And I mean, they were listed out. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's in Dalton. I don't know the builder's name. He's just a local Dalton builder. And the agent's wonderful. I mean, he sent me everything. I mean, all I had to do was go in there and add the boxes. All I had to do was read it and go through the box, make sure everything read like, because I sent him my client's name, I sent him the purchase price, the earnest money, I sent him everything. And he filled it all out. Yeah, I had to add the signature boxes, but
I think y'all, a few years ago, when we were talking earlier about the, pickup policy, there was nothing was changed. And I didn't know that, there was nothing was changed. Because it had different verbiage from what I was told in May. So I had a question about my, so it's new, so do you know the answer, how do you know these changes?
January and June. January and June in Georgia.
Okay. Well, like I said, I had a question about a specific situation. Oh, this is class because it's all about this. And I said, well, when you read this, you should say,
I'm looking at I'm looking at C and I'm going, it don't say that. Yeah.
I forgot that June was a month of change, change. Of course, I'm not doing any writing at the moment, but I'm just saying, this would have fixed it.
Yeah. But do look at, thank you, do look at the forms. When you get stuff from agents, look at it. Were you in here when I said I just got a property disclosure from an Atlanta agent on a property in Ringgold? And it was a 2022 property disclosure that was just signed. And I sent it back to her and I said, I'm not going to accept this. Can you please do the most current one? It's 3 years old, 3-year-old form.